more.
Yes,
Wow.
definitely. Doing
Good.
very, the gross close commissions is like 240 something ahead. Yeah.
Good. Good.
I'm in
So
I'm in the same boat. Sorry, Mike. I'm in the
go ahead.
same boat where we probably will do more business from March to what we have closed, and then pending and active listings, more business in that time period than we did all of last year. So,
Wow.
for us, business has been really, really strong.
I really don't know how to explain it considering I got COVID. So it might be a good marketing strategy for you guys because I had a lot of people calling me to see how I was doing. So the hard part is me calling everybody. When everybody's calling you, it's like, hey, by the way, they're keeping in touch with you after the fact as well. It was just good. I was able to connect with a lot of people I didn't even think cared about me getting COVID, but that was cool. Yeah, so the value I'm taking away is increased communication. So I know we're going to get into that, Michael.
Yeah. And yeah, and for me, I haven't looked in about a month, but I was down through the end of May. I was down like 30%, and I've caught back up. I could say that. And yeah, so it's been good. So I will surpass as well, but it's interesting how it was like a comeback, a fourth quarter comeback. Well, literally and figuratively, I guess, coming up here, right?
Yes.
But anyways, so yeah.
Yeah, and this fourth quarter is going to be very exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest thing is typically fourth quarter is slower. Typically September starts to slow down, but it's like September is now more like July, of a normal year. This September is like a normal July because we had a little pause in action there.
Everything is so unprecedented that we don't know. We don't know how, considering everything that's going on, are we going to just keep that tempo and momentum throughout?
What are your guys' thoughts on that, on, the trend? Do you see that continuing to move forward in the way that we have been?
Yes.
I think it's going to continue. Yeah. With this whole thing about people, I mean, a big factor is people going back to school, the kids going back to school, right? Now you're getting into like, they're really feeling the effects of working out of their home and kids being home, and they start wanting something different, right? So a lot of people so we want a bigger home. And now that they're going to be there longer, they start, that's the feedback I'm getting from a lot of buyers in regards to wanting to make a change. So with the rates being low, I don't see it changing at all. The competition hopefully will die down a little bit, but the tempo on the sales, I think will stay the same.
The rates staying there, and economists are saying that they're gonna keep the rates where they are for 6 months to a year at least. When you hear that, almost irregardless of presidential election and all that kind of stuff, irregardless of that, they're saying that whoever it is will keep the interest rates the same. One last thing I thought was really interesting. I was teaching a class at 9, and I looked up using InfoSparks from the MLS, the number of listings in the MLS at any given time. You could do particular cities, but I did the entire MLS. Let's say 5 years ago, it was 110,000 to 110,000 active listings in the computer. August of this year, 50,000. So that's part of the problem, right?
Simple supply and demand.
I think as of a couple of days ago, I checked the city of Whittier active listings, and it was 84 across the board, houses, condos, land, everything. Where, back in 2008, you were talking about 12 to maybe 1,500 properties for sale. Oh, so it's night and day difference. And I don't know if we jump to the question that's in the chat, I think, or we might address it down the line, but as far as prospecting during this time, questions at the end. Sorry, here.
No, let's jump in with whatever you want right now.
So how do you guys prospect during this time? What have we done different during the pandemic?
For myself, it's not what I do different.
I'm just COVID and let people call you.
Yes, yeah. Just go out and get COVID. You'll find it anywhere. No, it's just doing more of what I do. Then webinars I've been on previously, people know I'm a big texter. My phone just gets bombarded with text messages. I think there's too much in this, but people still respond very well. I don't have another number. That's what somebody was asking me previously. If there's a separate number, like a Lions Desk number or something else, I just use my phone number, and just a simple text of concern in regards to how they're doing. But it's a consistency that makes a difference. You know, and somebody expresses something to you, that you follow through and follow up and bring something of value at the same time. So texting for me is more, and I'll always do the Zoom invitation. Either we do FaceTime, although I'm finding people are just keep it simple and FaceTime. I don't like sometimes the times they FaceTime me, but I try to set it up into an appointment, and I just go through, and they're not messing with all these other things, because we have problems with Zoom, right? Going in and changing the screen, and we have technical difficulties. But most people will have either through Facebook, through any other one of these platforms, we'll just FaceTime there. Hey, can I just call you on WhatsApp or something different? And I'm just open to that. So that works for me, but it comes from me because I'd like the face-to-face. Hey, let me just set you up right here, whether it is in the car. I do a lot of it in my car. So it's just that much better for me.
And yeah, in terms of the face-to-face, if you have an iPhone, we're FaceTiming. If you don't, then I try another thing. Like I have one buyer right now, and I'm showing them because they live far away. So we always go on Zoom. We have the same Zoom link we use, so I can show them a house. But I mean, that's really my only person that I'm doing that with. Everyone else, it's usually FaceTime. In terms of prospecting for myself, it's I guess a good problem. The leads keep coming from the different sources, email blasts, and doing different things. So the good part is the leads keep coming. I guess the biggest key for me has been now there's just more follow-up. You know, with more leads comes more follow-up. So there's more time spent on that. And I know kind of that doesn't count as prospecting, but if you're not following up, then all the prospecting in the world goes down the drain. So I just find myself having to do more follow-up right now. So,
Luther, I have a question. When you say text messaging, how many text messages do you think you send a day? And do you keep track of, hey, I got to hit this number for the business to kind of keep moving forward?
Well, when I'm doing to my center of influence and past clients, the past clients is about 380 right now. So what I do is I go first to past clients, go through all those text messages and allow for time for feedback and responding to them. And then I go to my center of influence. So total, it's about 1,000.
And you get to them every month, every couple months,
once a quarter for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I do is I'll have like, I section them off in groups. So depending on what where the property that I'm listing is and what the topic is, or even a holiday message, depending on what group it is, and I factor it off into there, and I just got to make sure to respond. Actually, for the holidays, I have some agents here, agent friends that I respond to, and some get on my case. It's like, hey, you send me that, I respond. You didn't. I mean, I'm talking to you, so just keep the conversation going. But that's a problem where you start a conversation with 300 people. It's very hard to keep track. So I started sectioning them off that way. So if you're gonna go that route, just make sure you allocate enough time to engage in those conversations. But the ones that are like, hey, something about my house, or I'm looking, or of course, they sidetrack you. But you gotta have a plan and a little structure for that. That's all. Sharing my mistakes.
We're in the same boat kind of as Michael, where it's more of the lead follow-up. That's the biggest thing. We generate some good amount of leads through Facebook and past clients and so forth, but it's the lead follow-up. So when we talk about like lead generating or prospecting, a lot of it is just really following up with the people that have reached out. And with online leads, especially Facebook, people are a lot not as far along in the purchase funnel as we would like them to be. So there may be 6, 12, 18 months out. So the initial call is not hey, I want to get pre-approved and I want to start seeing homes. It's how do I get started? I want to work on my credit. So it's a lot of incubating. And if you do enough of that, you fast forward a year, that's when the business starts kind of showing up. So for us, it's been following up during this time. And then the other thing we've been doing a lot of, and it was more March, April, maybe even May, was more care calls, just checking in and seeing what people want. Some of our past clients, we actually helped them fill out the paperwork for the PPP loan, and for the disaster loan. I don't know that acronym. So we actually help, our team help prepare the paperwork, or guide people to the paperwork, I should say. So we just came from a place of, well, how can we help you? And we knew sales weren't going to happen. So the next best thing is, well, if we can help you buy a house, maybe we'll get you some money. And I think, helped 5 or 6 families, businesses actually get some money. So that was nice. I know they're going to be, fans for life. So
yeah, maybe one of these webinars, Jeanette, we can focus on that incubation and nurturing of the follow-up part.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to know a little more about that. Hi, Tyson.
yeah.
That's why I'm muted.
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. First off, thank you for doing this. It's not every day that all 3 of you powerhouses get in the same room. But if you guys right now can look at all the tools, all the advertising, whether it's mail outs, working your soy, advertising on Facebook, if you could look at everything that you guys do, and I know for a fact you guys do a ton of it, if you could only keep one of them right now and you had to get rid of everything else, what would that one be? Would it be soy? Would it be texting? Would it be Facebook? Would it be mail outs? Right now, what would be that one tool that you guys would keep?
Assuming soy has got to be the best one. So for me, that has to be the answer. If it's after that, I would say I do a lot of online stuff, so I would want to keep the online. But
when you say soy, obviously center of influence, but what are you doing? What are you doing with that center of influence? What's the preferred method of communication with them? And are your past clients part of that center of influence?
Yes. So, I mean, when I said of course, that has to be the answer. So you have the ability to be contacting your past clients and your soy. That's 50% of my business. No matter how much I spend on Zillow or whatever, postcards and what have you, if you take away your past clients and your sphere of influence, that's half the business. So that's why I said it has to be. In terms of getting to them, I would say email blast, and then text, because text is so easy, as you said. And so actually the person that asked that question was David Bravo Jr. I was about to say earlier, when you were saying about getting all those texts at one time, David gave me the idea, only hit like 25 at a time. If you're using a text blast, only do 25 at a time. So you're not bombarded with, 100, 200, 300. And then once you got that under control, send out another 25 or something like that. So, but yeah, so for me, it's text and email. Phone, of course, but it's just that you can handle so much more with text. So.
Yes. Remote.
I would say social media, and I don't know if that is just one. I mean, we get some good traffic from Yelp and Facebook. But I would say for us, what's really helped in the last maybe year or two is our following on Instagram. We try to spread it out where it's not just real estate. One of the things that we're right now doing and we're documenting is building an ADU. And so that's a kind of hot topic. So we're getting a lot of questions and these are questions from homeowners and so we're obviously talking to the right people. The right people are talking to us, which is important. So for us, just going forward, if I were to, obviously, I've never heard soil, so that's why I didn't know what it was, but sphere of influence is definitely up there. We do a lot of client appreciation events. We did a virtual egg hunt, and I'll share with you our next idea. We're going to do a big virtual bingo that we're planning for, I think in 2 weeks. So you guys are more than welcome to jump on, and we're just going to do bingo, give away prizes, and it'll be something similar to this where we're going to say numbers and people will say bingo, and it allows us to kind of have a lot of airtime with, our past clients.
That's a good idea.
Great. Yeah, great answers. For me, since I'm a little seasoned, not as much as Michael, but I focus on the same thing, past client center of influence, in the same way that he would be reaching out to them. I do that because of the years in the business, 23 now. However, more towards what Remo is doing if I were newer in the business, in hopes of trying to develop a good center of influence and past client list along the way. And that's what I think a lot of people fall short on. So great question, David. I love your photo with a perfect combination of that salmon coat and the white shirt. Thank you for that question.
I didn't care for it.
It just so happened to match it.
You guys, there's another question.
Okay.
Patricia wants to know, if you're representing the buyer, what steps do you take to get your offer accepted? Like to stand out.
I'll start. First of all, communicate with the listing agent. You may feel like you're being annoying, but annoying eventually turns into endearing. I kind of mean that. And what I mean by that is, don't be the agent that sends the email and then ducks and then, doesn't want to talk to the listing agent or text. My opinion is, if you can somehow get a relationship with that listing agent, or the listing agent, likes what's on the table. Of course, it has to be a good offer, and that's the next thing to talk about. But I would just say to communicate, at least text the agent, say, hey, I just emailed it to you, that sort of thing. But
for myself, it has to be, I call it a buyer love letter. It's a letter with the family photo, tells you a little bit about that family, and it sets the offer apart other than just numbers on an offer. And I've had sellers just accept an offer way below what the other ones were at because they liked that family, and it wasn't about the money for them. You don't find that often, but why would you do away with that option? You need that advantage in this market. So I'm surprised how far along that goes, and I'm surprised a lot of people don't do that. I do that on every single offer. And also what I started doing is, if I send an offer to a listing agent, Remo, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get the video, even though I know you. It's a video, just sending a face-to-face with the agent. Don't FaceTime them. It's just record a video in your car, let them know a little bit about your buyers, and that you sent an offer, you structured it. I followed instructions. I did as much as I could, and I sent it over. Just waiting to hear from you. Just wanted, if you don't know them, put a name to the face. And other agents have given me good feedback on that. Good question, Patricia.
I mean, we do both those things that Michael and Luther mentioned. The letter is absolutely critical. I'm also blown away. Out of 10 offers, we might get 2 that have a letter. And the families, to a family, they're looking at the offers, and it's all, it's all different language to them. The letter gives a personal connection, and if anything, the letter at least might give you that last at bat, right? Your buyer might not want to go up to that amount, right? Maybe the price is high, but they might come back and say, hey, the Joneses look like a nice family. See if they're willing to come up. And that happens so often. And that's really in the trenches versus, if you had, for example, 10 offers and there was no letter, then they're going to say, well, let's default to who's going to give us the most and close the fastest. So I think absolutely important. And then the relationships, this is where the reputation is obviously critical. This is why you do a lot of good business. So in times like this, you can, lean on those relationships and say, hey, we maybe haven't done a deal, but I know this person, that, and name drop and do whatever you got to do to actually, to get their attention. And sometimes, it's at the end of the day, it's the best offer is what's ultimately going to win. There's no kind of shying away from that. And in this market, this was a question that we had in our office meeting, and it was to our TCs that are TCing for the office. And the comment that came up is about 40% of their files, the buyer releases their appraisal contingency in all the files. We're not talking about they're the TC for one person. This is a TC that maybe has 40, 50 files at any given point. And if you're hearing that 40% of all offers release their appraisal contingency, that's a very aggressive, market to kind of to compete in. So if you know that, then obviously, that might be an option if it is an option for the buyer. So, so hopefully that helped.
Yeah, and it's very important to stay on track and stay committed with your buyers and keep uplifting them, because it's hard on us, right? Isn't it hard when you submit all these offers, you're not getting accepted? How do you think they feel? So it's very important to keep that mindset on, hey, we got to keep going. It's only a matter of time. This wasn't the home for you, because despite the relationship, despite you doing everything, they can only go with one buyer, and it doesn't happen. And I'm surprised even sometimes. Remo, I don't know if you're going to accept my client's offer, but I'm going to be very surprised if you don't. I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to be hurt. I just submitted an offer on his property. Actually, why don't you tell him, what's it going to take for me to get my offer accepted right now? Let's role play a little bit. Remo, you got my offer. I structured it, you know.
We received a total of 11 offers. We had about 35 showing requests. And, and the sellers are just torn between a few of the offers. So we'll let you know by this afternoon.
All right. So you saw what I offered, right? Is there anything, because I know I asked you, you said the timing because they wanted maybe some additional time on the property. After you saw all the offer with the competing ones, is there anything we can do to improve it? This is where I need your help on. I'm going to just weigh on the relationship a little bit.
Sure. The top few offers released their appraisal contingency and went well above the asking price.
Yeah, as we did. Yeah, as we did in this competitive market, definitely. Yeah. Okay, crossing both hands, fingers, man.
But it should be said. But it should be said what just happened. So Luther picked up a phone and called.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's far better than most.
Yeah.
So in the end, I know Remo's gonna has to go with the highest most likely. But in the end, Remo may be fighting for Luther if all things come, because they had rapport. I mean, I know you know each other, but let's say you didn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the sellers pick the buyers. I think the listing agents pick the agent, right? And I think that's something that's really important. There might be a better offer, but at the end of the day, I want to pick someone that's gonna get the ball past the goal line here. And if I feel like, and one of the offers that we received, Luther, is from our own office. I didn't get a call from that person, and it was, actually it was another property. It was the highest offer, but no call, no anything, and I'm just like, you have to call. And one thing to share, when Luther reached out to me, I called him back and I said, Luther, this is what it, and we had a conversation. So, because in this world, the community is very small. And so in this time, obviously, I have a listing, Luther has a buyer, right? And in next month, it'll be the opposite. Same with Michael. And so I would rather work with people that are kind of in the trenches and are doing well, because I know that door is going to, the shoe's going to be on the other foot very soon. So
yeah, and you'll make sure.
I would fight for a producing agent for that reason, because I know it's going to benefit us in the long term somehow.
I remember the conversation. We both had babies crying in the background.
Yep.
But my client's a soccer player. He'll carry that ball past the goal line for sure. All right.
Jose, really? Tequila bottle and a gift card to the assistant? That's what he wrote in the chat box. Yeah, so I have an offer from someone that works in the NFL recently. I said, well, if you can get me tickets when we can go back, maybe I'll consider your offer. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways.
So let's take it to the question in regards to showings, because I think a lot of that communication with the agent gets trumped right at the beginning. And I learned off of my mistakes and all the agents. So there's agents in my office right now dealing with the DRE on a heavy thing right now because they didn't send PED forms. And it's a listing agent that ended up reporting them. And it's a problem. You have agents that, hey, there's a lockbox, go. They don't even ask you for a PED form, but it's very important to be in compliant on your end to make sure you do away with any liability at this point. So I wanted to ask you guys what protocols you take when you're showing, like just take it from the beginning when you request the appointment and what you do to when you're showing.
So we're talking as a buyer then, as a buyer's agent first.
As a buyer's agent, yes.
Okay. So, I mean, you send the PED, you text the agent or call the agent and follow the instructions in the showing remarks or the private remarks. And if it's owner occupied, you're seeing a lot lately that we're showing the house on Saturday from 10 to 5 and, request the time and be courteous and that sort of thing as a buyer's agent.
Got it. Remo, you showing property?
No, I mean, I actually ran into Armando. I see him on here at a property because I'm more of a filler. So if I need to show a property, then I definitely will. I enjoy it. I just don't like the forms and the PED, and I think they're the biggest, they're not, anyways. So do I show property? Yeah. Regarding the PEDS, I think what's important is obviously if there's a schedule, you got to follow that. You got to set the expectation with the buyer and you let them know, hey, we have a couple time slots that are going to be given to us, and we just have to do whatever we can to accommodate those. I think by when sending the PED, if there's a showing time that's available, you request it, so there's eliminates the back and forth. I think that's something that's really important. A lot of times, you send an email, here's a PED, and you say, okay, well, when's the time? And it takes a couple of days to get an appointment, and it's really consuming. What else? I mean, I noticed
the ones that are very efficient. When you said it takes some time to make an appointment, what system are you guys using to execute on that right away? I see Calendly. I see Showing Time. Is that it, Michael?
Text.
Yeah.
I'm fast on it. I'm very fast. So for me, it's the easiest. If you text me, that's what I'm doing. And then you'll email me the PED, text me that you emailed me the PED, and I'll give you right back a time to go, or confirm your time.
Perfect.
Showing Time, we can go there if you want later, but I'm not using it.
Yeah, same here. It just gets complicated. But I was listening to a very productive agent on Tom Ferry's panel, and they were just ranting about how awesome that system is. So I'm looking into it just to be able to for it to function efficiently, because it does take all those tasks off your hand. I'm changing diapers, I'm doing stuff in the weekend, and it's hard to respond, and the agents get mad. Hey, I text you. It's like, wait, I mean, it's Sunday afternoon. Can you give me a minute?
I got poop on me, damn it.
Yeah, so I just got somebody, I just made an appointment earlier, somebody with Calendly, and they had everything on there, and you just click, choose your time, and then everybody gets notified. I thought that was pretty cool. So that's why I thought of asking you guys what system. So what about you, Remo?
We have Jessica from our team. She's just great at it. And I think for me, I'm too much of a high D where I would tell people, yeah, just go. And then the seller wouldn't be expecting us, and we don't have the forms, and I would just mess everything up. So anytime I get the inquiry, I just say, hey, reach out to her. Because if I get involved, it's going to get messed up, and everyone's going to be upset at me. So I know myself well enough to just make sure that I pull myself away from administrative tasks, because again, I'll just mess things up. So she's really good, organized. She's spreadsheet machine. And, when it's only let's say one active property or two in a short period, then it's manageable, I think, for a text message. Last week, we had the good fortune of bringing 4 properties to market that are in that 500-600 range. And we had about 125 showing requests within a week. And so, with the request comes calls, comes this, comes that. And so, it's good for the first couple hours where it's like, wow, this is great. And then by the 5th hour, you're like, okay, just put everything on hold because this is way too consuming.
It's a tidal wave.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So the whole day, the whole couple days, we're just confirming people's PEDs, and I mean, it doesn't become, you're not selling real estate anymore. You're organizing documents, and I think that's the part that, again, if I get involved, then it's just going to be a big mess, and everyone's going to be upset at me. So I just pull myself away from it.
Yeah, despite being very organized and structured in the instructions, people are still going to call you. I get them everybody from my office will always call me up. Hey, this and that. And I try to politely just say, hey, can you, because I don't have the schedule. Melissa does. Can you please contact her? Because I like you, I'm going to mess it up. And I have, but they're going to call anyway, unfortunately. So if some of the agents that are on here, just that takeaway of do that first. It's okay. I like, hey, I requested it, this and this, I'm still going to call you. There's Michael's advice, just call. So it helps when you did all that other stuff that's on there already.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. So the agent called me and they're like, we sent the PED, we sent everything. I checked, they had it. Jessica had it on the schedule for them to see it at 2:30. Well, I said, okay, here's a combo. They got the combo. They got there 45 minutes early, and I didn't know that. And she gives the combo when the person is at the property. So they got the keys, and the seller's like, well, I thought the appointment was this time. They were still in the house. And the seller called, obviously not excited that someone has the keys to my house and I'm still inside my house. And so this happened, I think, on Saturday or Sunday. That's exactly why I don't get involved, because those types of things happen that, you know, make all of us not look the greatest and get someone upset at us.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for you, Luther, you just do it via email. So either you or maybe an assistant is responding to your email, and that works too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how about, I'll just go there along the same lines, I think, Luther, of the question, how about as for a listing, do you feel there are some agents that want to be there from 10 in the morning till 7 at night, be there with a lawn chair in front? Anybody on that, in that camp?
No.
I think the answer is no, right? Okay. So it can, so I guess the big thing, it can be done without you there. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. With a system in place and having, you know, maybe 15, if it's like maybe a medium-sized house, 15-minute intervals. If it's a really small house, 10-minute intervals, a little bigger, 20, you know, really big, 30 minutes, I guess. And that's the one frustrating thing, I'll just say it. For a regular house, the agents that do 30-minute intervals, I don't quite get it, because that means only 2 people in an hour can see a house. So, and
well,
you know,
I did 30-minute intervals on and here in Montebello, and it seemed like they were overlapping. And I asked the agent, like, hey, you got to be out of there in 30 minutes, just so you know. I tell them, but they're, you know, they're hanging out outside. One of them still had to go check something because they wanted to measure something. So it's very important to say, hey, this is the amount of time you have. You got to be out by that time. Right. So hopefully that doesn't continue to be an issue. So do you do 15 minutes on an average size home?
Yes.
Wow.
And it works okay. I mean, average, we're talking average 1,500 to 2,000 square feet.
You don't list average homes, Michael? Come on.
About 1,500. About 1,500 to 2,000 is usually 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you know what I do find is, you know, we're not talking, it's not going to be a line out the door. Okay. But, you know, there may be one person waiting, and yeah, again, one person that's a little late, someone was early, and that sort of thing. But usually I've found, and I don't know about you guys, everybody on the thing, people are pretty respectful. They get what's going on, that we're trying to schedule something, and, you know, they're mindful of time. That's my opinion. I
think 30 minutes is just spot on, because people run late, there's a lot of things that happen, and 15 minutes, in my opinion, if it's 15 minutes, then we're going to get the call saying this agent's not out of the house, and then we have to police that. And so we tell people 15 minutes, and it allows them to kind of exit the property and the other agent to come in. So 30 minutes has been kind of our sweet spot. I would love to get 15 minutes and get more people in, but I think it ends up just overlapping, and people are going to just, again, reach out to us and say, these people are not following the rules. Because you only need one person to kind of be late, and then all of a sudden it just trickles to every other appointment.
Yeah. What about when you guys actually get into the transaction? Just going into COVID here with everything that's going on, how have you guys changed the way you're handling transactions? Any systems you implemented or you're using more of, from DocuSign to anything else, .loop, anything you might have implemented?
A little more with doing FaceTime or Zoom with paperwork instead of meeting in person. That would be the only thing of doing a little more of, which is kind of convenient, you know, to do that. If you, if again, I'm assuming it's someone that isn't going to be using .loop or DocuSign, that wants the hands-on. So if you can't meet with them, that you can at least do that, send them the paperwork, have it delivered, whatever, and then go over it with them, you know, on Zoom or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Transactional. I mean, it's still in the office. It's just, I don't say moving paperwork, but it's that really hasn't changed. The only thing that might have changed is it's less in-person visits, and we're in the same boat where we'll get on a Zoom call and go through the documents, ask questions about the TDS or SPQ. That's really the bulk of it. Everything else has been the same. Obviously, it's when they're doing inspections and, you know, making sure there's P's there for each of those people. And so it's, you know, a little bit more paperwork, but I think it's all manageable. That's the easy part. I think the tough part is, you know, the showings and all the logistics around the forms. Once you're in escrow, I think it becomes a normal transaction, or pre-COVID type transaction.
Are you guys going to inspections now? Are you guys present or anything? Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Appraisal
buyer,
inspections.
yeah, buyer for sure. Listings, try to at least get there for the summary. But,
I see. What about buyers that want to be coming into the office? They want to do the face-to-face thing, not necessarily at the office, just meet with you face-to-face. Obviously, you go to their home and what have you, right?
yeah, so I'm still okay with it.
Okay.
We wear our masks. So.
Yeah, I've lost a couple listings, I think, because, you know, I really pushed a Zoom call and they were like, well, I want my house sold and I want someone to, and it was probably the time where I was, you know, more sensitive with COVID and having a little one. And so and it was really more convenient than anything. So everything was going to Zoom. So I said, well, do you want to do a Zoom listing appointment? And I think there's two of them that stuck to mind that ended up going with someone else because the person went there, met with them, built rapport, and they decided to move forward with them. So, so for me now, I'm all about in person. I'm okay. Like Mike said, I'll wear a mask. I always wear a mask, but we'll get a shield protector, something, so we can have that in-person appointment.
Do you guys want to talk about your daily routine? What's your daily routine that's being asked?
Okay. I'll start,
Okay.
I guess.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, my daily routine right now has been spending a little, you know, I get up, I set up my little home gym and do my workout there and spend some time with the kids. Got to make sure all three of them are good to go with their breakfast. And I head out, and it's a very typical day for me. I just try to beat the traffic and get out of here at a certain time. But the prospecting, the calls, the texts, everything is, like Michael said, the follow-up. That's what I have a challenge with. So I got to start earlier, but, you know, trying to wake up the kids a little bit earlier. But very, very typical from following up on existing transactions, what I have closing, administrative stuff. Then I move on to, you know, the follow-up pretty much the entire day. I'm following up on potential deals, potential clients. And I am doing showings. I know some of you guys aren't, but I'm doing showings as well.
Yeah, but I'll follow up with what you said, and just, yes, get the administrative stuff out of the way so you can move on to the fun stuff. So, yeah, and yeah, try to get out of the house myself. I got two teenagers on Zoom from 8:30 in the morning till noon, till 12:30, and like, for example, today you're not going to be on Zoom at home, are you? Because you're going to take up our Wi-Fi in the house. So you need to, not here, Dad. So yeah, so hence I'm at the office.
That's bullying right there.
Right?
Mike, you got to spring for a better internet. Come on now. It might be in the budget here. My daily routine is obviously with newborn. It's Luther. I know you're a pro at this. We're still getting acclimated to things. But we got a routine down. I'm on baby watch till about 8:30, and then we have breakfast and then kind of start the day. And there's no real daily routine. I mean, I have a few construction projects going on, and so those projects are moving quickly, and so every day is kind of different. The big picture of what the daily routine is, you know, be in some sort of lead follow-up mode by, you know, 9:30 till 11:30, and then I would say set up appointments, because at the end of the day, you know, if we focus on what is our one thing that is going to advance our business, if we do that one thing, nothing else matters, and it's really to generate seller leads and go on listing appointments. So that's my job, right? That there's nothing else. It's the P is not my job. You know, all the other 90-some% of that happens in real estate is not my job. My only job is to generate seller opportunities and go on those appointments and, you know, and take on new business. So I think being crystal clear on the day needs to consist of more of that, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you guys are, I'm very results oriented. It's like, what did I get done at the end of the day? What's the goal at the beginning? What did I get done? What did I accomplish? It's not the activity, it's the productivity and what you were able to execute on. And if it didn't happen, then that's when you're planning for the next day, which is a big takeaway here. Always plan for the next day what you're going to do. And just don't be so hard on yourself. Sometimes you just got to do it over. But whatever it is, however you're structuring your day, it's not about just getting into a routine. It's developing the habits that you're prospecting daily, you're closing deals, you're negotiating contracts, like the money-making activities, you know? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, and servicing our clients, of course.
Remo, how are you generating seller leads?
Well, I would say as I look back on what the last 10, a lot of them are past clients. So we talked about soil, the new word I learned, a new acronym I learned. So it's being in a relationship with those people. Then I think what's important is when we do have a listing or an opportunity that we market it, because a lot of the marketing doesn't necessarily sell that listing, but it brings new opportunities. So whatever it is that you have, and I see people on Facebook take other people's listings and market it, right? And which is fine as long as you got permission. So each of us have people in our office that have listings. You go to them and say, hey, can I help market your listing? And over time, people seeing you market listings, other sellers are going to say, well, this guy sells houses or this gal sells houses, let's reach out to her. So I think being able to leverage what you have, and if you don't, then leverage maybe what your office has. We haven't had success with mailers because we've been really inconsistent with them. What else? For us, it's our sphere. We get a good amount of business from our past clients in our sphere. And if we rewind back 8-10 years ago, we were heavy buyer business back in 2010 to 2014. And so a lot of these buyers, if we kept in contact with them, they're now sellers. And so, we've been doing a lot of, selling our previous buyers that we helped.
And it's important to note that it's not your soy, or let's just call it soy sauce. You got to make sure you got soy sauce and interact and have a relationship with your clients. That's where the sauce comes in. Do you have the sauce to make that happen? I know people with like a big book of business, but their it's like before you know it, they sold a house, they listed a house. It's that relationship that we got to nurture, that I want to do a webinar on with Remo. He seems to have that down. And that's what matters. You could have a small one, but they're loyal, they're tight with you. And as long as you keep growing that, I think that's gold right there.
For us, I'll tell you one example of how we knew we were on the right track with our past clients. We do a handful of client appreciation events. So we'll rent out a pumpkin patch. We'll do something for Easter, and we'll do something with on holiday, and we bring Santa out. And so over, done it for 5-6 years. And the last one, we had a couple hundred people at it. And we know we're on the right track when the parents say, hey, I want to go to Remo's party because he's Santa's friend. And so now they're reminding their parents, hey, are we going to, it's Christmas time, now it's time to go to, Uncle Remo's party because he has Santa Claus. And I think that's where, it's one thing to be in a relationship with the parents. Somehow the kids remember you and they remind the parents you're in.
You're in.
And they will not forget. Your clients forget about you, but not their kids. That's a good one. Yep. Man.
Yeah. So
friend.
I'm going to wear a white beard and I'm going to play bingo.
Yeah, that's right. You probably have done both of them, my guy.
My next listing is N44. That's
yeah. By the way, anyone want to sell before I say the next number? Is that?
If you guys would recommend a member right now to read a book, what book would that be?
I saw the question. What are your favorite book? I would still say if you're a new agent, Win Friends and Influence People is still so good to help somebody. I know that's like almost 100 years old, but to help somebody to understand the idea of conversation and making the other person that you're talking to feel important and build rapport and trust. That's what you can get out of that book. And then there are, other books, of course, that will help you with motivation. 10X, I liked 10X. I don't care for the author that much. Sorry, I said that, but I really do like that book. The idea of just having goals and big goals. And even if you if you fall short a little bit, hopefully you got in the right direction and you had a goal. So anyways. I'm reading the Patriots Dynasty right now book, so that's not real estate related.
The one from Gary Vaynerchuk that made a big difference with me in the way that I run my business, which is called Jab, 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 Right Hook, which he just talks about with your center of influence, with your past clients and everybody you're going to deal with that you're going after doing business with them. The jabbing is, I'm giving value. How can I help you? How can I make your life better? I know David's probably not on the call anymore, but he's always asking me this question. How can I make your life better? I took that and I always ask the people I work with, what can I do to make your life better? How can I help you meet your real estate goals? So you're jabbing, so that it doesn't feel awkward when you want something in return, which is a real estate referral. Hopefully that happens naturally, because that is what he talks about. It'll happen naturally because they're thinking about you. So that right hook is asking for referrals, but if you didn't do all the jabbing, that's when it's just off. So that book really helped me, and it got recommended to me early on. So I would recommend, it's an old book. And a lot of Darren Hardy books. I love Darren Hardy. He talks about not being distracted, because you get a lot of noise, especially nowadays with everybody wanting to, that shinier system that's, and what we're talking about, that contact management system. You just go into that rabbit hole. There's all kinds of things they're telling you this does this, and it gets so complicated that you end up doing nothing. So just be careful of that. He talks about just not getting distracted.
Yeah, that's
my 3 books, and I was thinking, why it's really one I would read it 3 times, but if I had to pick 3, kind of some of the last ones I read, it was Relentless by Tim Grover. That's Michael Jordan's trainer. Kind of talks about 3 different types of people. I like, from a business standpoint, profit first. So how do you pay yourself before you pay anyone else? And then the one book that I would read 3 times before I'd read any other book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's by far the best business book I've ever read in my life. And it's a real powerful book. So it takes the idea as, as someone gets stronger. Luther mentioned the weights, right? If you bench press a pound more every single day or every single week, and you fast forward a year or 2, all of a sudden now you're bench pressing, 2-3 times than you ever thought you would. And it's not because all of a sudden you lifted and you said, I can bench this, but it's a small, atomic being the smallest kind of thing out there, that you keep doing these small things, and it's a compound effect of it. So Atomic Habits by James Clear is #1 book.
Yeah, that Darren Hardy Compound Effect. That's one of the best ones. Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one.
So real quick, do you guys have a favorite podcast?
So that's real estate related, right?
Like, not necessarily.
I'm going through my podcast. I saw that question. Real estate related. I'm a Tom Ferry guy. I know Mike Ferry's going on today. You mentioned Luther, but I do listen to the Tom Ferry podcast. He has little clips, some that are about an hour and some that are 7 minutes. So real estate wise. And then I actually still listen to Brian Buffini. He's another real estate coach, and I do enjoy his in terms of real estate podcasts. So,
with I know both you are Tesla owners. You can actually listen to the Tom Ferry podcast in your Tesla. That's how I actually started listening to it. I thought it was, I don't have any podcasts. I'm always more on books than I am podcasts. I'm sure like both these gentlemen, I'm on the phone often. And so to try to get in a full like podcast session, it just gets interrupted. So I like to be able to, dedicate 30 minutes or an hour to actually to a book, where I've had difficulties with podcasts.
On podcasts, for me, I focus on listening to several on different aspects of my life. So areas that I want to improve in, from fitness to marriage to real estate, business, rental properties. So Jeanette, what I could do is I'll send you the list of all the ones that I have. But one of them stands out to me, which is Pat Hyben. He interviews like really top real estate agents. And I've gotten some good value from there. You get a mix between new in the business, season. So you'll get some good value from that. And it's always changing. It's not just one person. And there's a lot of interviews that, I would never sit with these people. So I really enjoy those interviews and the questions they ask.
Yeah.
So this
So
related.
I have a newbie, like a brand new realtor on the chat asking me in private, anything that you guys haven't discussed already. Do you have some advice for them on how to like start their sphere? Just advice for a newbie that you haven't already touched on.
So go ahead, Rima.
I'll share one that I thought was brilliant. We had our company's annual event, and it was done virtually. And probably the one nugget, not one, there's many, but the one thing that really resonated with me was, I have to write it down. I wrote it down, I should say. Hopefully I can find it. This idea, obviously, about having real estate conversations, and what was said is, for online leads, you're not paying for closings, you're paying for real estate conversation, right? And I think that's totally spot on. People think I'm gonna get leads and I'm paying for going and thinking that it's gonna result in the closing. You're having a conversation with someone about real estate, right? And I think that's a good way of internalizing leads. And obviously, the more conversations you have, the more that you are obviously gonna convert into actual business. And so as a new person, I would say, well, how do I get more conversations, right? You can do it in person, you could do it through Facebook, you could do it through Instagram, you could, many things. It's just focus on how many real estate conversations you're having every day. And I think that's an important way to look at business.
So you're very limited right now with what you're able to do, open houses and what have you. We all are. However, you have to be involved every day, whether it is, you're not even showing a house, but you're there, like not to a client, but you're going to go preview it, let's just say. Because I remember just going and wanting to familiarize myself with prices, with the properties that are coming out in the market. So you go, and whatever you're doing, like, make use of social media, make use of it, where whether it is you're looking at the property, showing, or anything you're doing with the property at a physical inspection, anything, always be publicizing it, and reach out to the people that are making comments that you see like it, and start conversations that way. I would use social media a lot, and just get comfortable with making videos on there as well. I'm very uncomfortable making videos, believe it or not, and I'm being forced to do that right now because people want to walk through. Yeah, I get nervous. I'll share with you the takes I have to make just to get something out. So I would say use that angle. Instagram. I mean, a lot of agents are on TikTok. I've yet to make one TikTok, but that's something that's big. If you're new, hopefully you're young, you can get on platforms that your friends and family, and start developing that center of influence. Because a lot of people that have been in the business for 30 years didn't do that, and it's the biggest regret. Start developing and do all those things when it's small, because it becomes an issue when it's a bigger list. So make those calls and just get that habit of reaching out to them, and just start adding people.
Yeah, and speaking of, that's exactly what I was about to say. So if you're new, force yourself though to dig deep in terms of the people in your life, from family, your parents, friends, if you have kids, your kids, kids' parents, from different networks, from your previous work, high school, whatever, high school and college. Even if it's somebody you sort of just barely knew, if they at least know you, friend them or follow them, and so that way you can grow that, that database on Instagram and Facebook. So
I remember I went to a Mike Ferry retreat, and he gave out a sheet on all the categories and people that and it was so big, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't reach out to that person, I didn't reach out to this person. So it really helped me. I still have that list. I looked for it recently on his website. It's not there, but whoever wants to just reach out to me, I'll be more than happy to give it to you. But it makes you think of all the people that you really know and you can reach out to, and you start developing your center of influence that way.
We have to wrap it up, but someone is asking how you see the last quarter of 2020, and how do you see a fresh start for 2021? Yeah. And then maybe your closing statement.
I saw a ball on Michael's desk there. Maybe he can help us with that.
Hold on.
While Michael pulls that up, I have one thing to kind of add to the new person, which is, I focus on, a few things, maybe one thing that you're really good at that you'll consistently do. I remember when I first met Michael, back in like 2013, 14, I was through the board. I was in the mindset of I'll sell real estate everywhere, right? So I remember that it was one day I went to Garden Grove, to like LA Hollywood area, and then back to somewhere else. And I spent 3 hours on the road. And when I had met Michael, he's like, oh, I'm Mr. Downey, right? And so I took that and I said, well, if I could sell, if I'm going to sell anywhere, I might as well pick a city and really try to do all I can. So be familiar with the restaurants, be familiar with everything, and be that go-to person for that, city. And that's helped my business, where, most of our business now comes in the city of Whittier or a neighboring city. It's rare, especially on the listing side, that we spawn out to different areas. And it really just focusing on our business is going to come from here, and naturally it will. So I think that was powerful. So Michael, I want to say thank you for that, because that allowed me to really get focused on the area that we were most interested in.
Yeah, because otherwise it spreads you too thin and you can't get to the other things in your day because you're on the road.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So to answer the question about where it's going, I probably should be the last person to answer this question, considering when I did that webinar in March, or was it early March, Jeanette, for the association about, how I do, certain things, whatever. And I remember someone asked at the end, so what do you think, how do you think this coronavirus thing will play out? And my answer was, oh, I'm sure it'll blow over. No problem.
In the summer?
So anyways, but I do think it's going to stay strong with rates so low and the inventory still low and the demand out there. I think it's going to stay strong regardless of what happens in November, and we'll see what happens from there.
I also believe it's going to stay strong. We talked a little bit about the beginning. Just I'm looking at somebody else's questions, like what are we doing after we take a listing and all that. The systems that I have for transaction management, I use Top Producer, but I'm really trying to like really hone in on making all the systems I use very efficient, because when we get bombarded with all these clients and have to do more follow-up and the volume goes up, it's a good problem to have, but you reach that cap and it's like, I can only do so much. And I'm realizing that when I'm trying to do administrative stuff or follow up with everybody that we orchestrate these deals with, a lot of time gets wasted on that because it gets brought up throughout the day and you're just putting out fires. So I'm really focused on improving my systems. Jeanette, maybe that's another good webinar topic. Yeah. What do you do after it goes in? And there's so much tech to help us out with that. There's tools through the board, through NAR, which I'm super grateful for, that are helping us out. And I'm getting familiarized with those. And we got to stay plugged in and be aware of what's out there as far as resources to help us out. And when you're doing it, when you have a small amount of clients and you get really familiar with it, that's the best thing. So when you reach that level, you're just flowing and you appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, good points. All right.
Remo, do you have a closing statement?
I mean, no, have real estate conversation. That's the, there's a lot of noise out there in our real estate world it was mentioned with gadgets, with this, with that. At the end of the day, real estate is about relationships, and the more conversations you have, whether they're in person, whether they're virtually, through text message, email, the more of those conversations you're going to win. And I think all of us, me, Michael Luther will probably tell you that the more conversations you have, the more you're going to win. I mean, and that's really what it comes down to. All the other things are just distractions. If you just focus on having conversations, focusing on what your, one thing is, you're going to win. Once you get pulled in different directions, that's when, you start doing things that are not money producing activities. So that would be my closing thought. Were all the questions answered, Jeanette? I think there was a few more.
Okay, well, you guys, thank you so much for your time and knowledge, sharing it with everyone. We really do appreciate it. Everyone on the line is gonna appreciated it, and then future watchers on YouTube are gonna appreciate it. We had some people on Facebook because we were Facebook Live. Sorry, I forgot to warn you. But thank you so much, and maybe we'll do an end of year wrap up with you guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for being on, and thank you, Jeanette, for putting this on.
Of course. Thank you for participating. I really appreciate it.
You're
See you
welcome.
guys.
Thank you all three of you and Mario. You guys kick ass.
Thanks.
Okay, bye everyone.
All right. Bye.